Hey everybody, welcome to the UD6 community tournament. I am with Mythical as always. How are you doing?
I'm doing good on both sides of these things, but we're ready to get going here. And I can't help but notice you've got some new digs behind you.
Yeah,
What's going
yeah.
on?
All has been changed now. We are just doing an extra new setup for just today because we are like DUD is an incredibly demanding thing for both the runners and also all the team, and we have to switch back and forth between setups depending on what's available. So yeah, I have a new like white seat and a new shit, and actually like Le Chamut is just next to me to do the all the production stuff. So you can say all your love to him because he does a fantastic job on it. So we are today doing a cool dual DKC race, Mythical.
That's right. So we announced number 6 last week. We've been doing this for a while. If you haven't tuned into the Ultime Decathlon streams so far, we've been revealing the games one by one, and we do a couple events leading up through the week as the players learn the game and get more and more comfortable. So they've had a week with Donkey Kong Country. It's a fairly long run, and there's a lot of there's at least a handful of levels that are really tough memorization wise. Lots of
Yeah.
like you're just straight up in the dark, right? Like stuff like that. So there's a ton of resources on this game. There's an entire website with multiple strats for each stage. So the players have had really good resources to work with to prepare, and probably made some choices about what kind of strats wanted to go for. And we might see these strats change or evolve a little bit over time, but I'm curious to see where everyone's at.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that run because having so much information about all how to speedrun, how to get into it, a big community, a lot of runs, an entire website, as you said, with optimal strats and alternative strats and lower skill level strats and everything ranked by difficulties with a grade between like 0 to transcendental per over 10. Like it's crazy, and with all those resources, DKC speedrunning in the UD6 is going to be a matter and a race on how to learn a speedrun, because the game is not too bad, it's not too hard. It was when we were young, like when we were like 6 years old or something. It was a super tough game, but after playing all those platformers throughout like the past 20 years, it got easier on us, I feel, and now just going fast is extremely difficult. And the runners only had 7 days, so sub 40 starts to be a crazy goal, but the world record is at 32:15, so that's quite a margin to still progress for the rest of the remainder of the season, because UD6 started 6 weeks ago. We announced 6 games, and it's going to last up until October, so 4 months remaining to learn, to practice, and the competitive tourneys are starting in July, mid-July, so the runners still have a lot of time to discuss their strats on DKC, practice, learn new stuff, and it's going to be very interesting to see how well they are doing after just a week.
Alors je connais Zigouigoui, que
Get
j'ai
it.
déjà pu voir là. Il y a pas mal de nouveaux effectivement. Alors,
Today,
apparemment Parisian Players
looks
c'est
like
un
at
gros joueur
21
du jeu,
runners
lui,
who
hein,
have
c'est
come
ça.
out.
Il a déjà joué.
You can see
Shadow
all
aussi, je connais le Chamout, mais qui
2
ne joue
rounds
pas, Draconis,
of the game.
Victor
Players are going to be
Babast aussi.
scoring
J'en connais
points
quelques-uns
based
ici,
off of
mais
their
il y a pas mal
time.
de nouveaux qui vont
Points for
participer
both
à cette
runs will be
race.
added
Ah, puis
together
Deviltifa
to
et
determine
Bemondo,
our
ils sont mis
winner,
tout en
as
bas,
is
c'est un
sort of
peu,
the
ils ont un skitard, hein,
the
c'est pour ça.
trademark
Mais
style
bien
of
sûr, on a des
the
gros joueurs de
Ultimate
l'UD et
Decathlon.
des nouveaux, c'est ça qui est bon.
Yeah.
C'est ça, c'est vrai que
We
ça
have
fait plaisir en tout cas.
quite
Il y a
a few
effectivement des
well-known
vétérans du
names
circuit,
and
des
a few
petites
new
nouvelles à
ones
chaque
like all the
saison.
time. We have like
Et
huge
là, on a vu cette saison, il y a
runner
plein de
base,
nouvelles
and
personnes
some
qui débutent
players
le
are
speedrun.
just
Et autre
like
chose
depending on
hyper
how
intéressante
fast
qu'il
they
n'y avait pas
learn
forcément
and
eu
how
cette
well
saison,
they learn
c'est
the
qu'il y a des
game,
spécialistes du
join
jeu
in
comme
on the community choices or
par
not.
exemple, Chevalier,
But I
comme
can't
Soma
help
sur
notice we
Castlevania,
have
qui font
Devil
l'effort de faire
Tifa
tous les
back after
Ah, ça,
his
c'est sympa de
loss
leur part.
last
Et en
week.
même temps, ils peuvent entraîner
He
aussi
was
les
that
autres joueurs,
first
bien
tourney
sûr, et
didn't
de
end
diriger
the
la
first
communauté
place.
pour leur dire non, mais c'est normal que tu
DKC is
passes
one
pas,
of
c'est
his
pas la bonne
favorite
frame sur laquelle
games
t'appuies.
ever, so he had
Exactement.
that
En tout
edge.
cas, sans
Being
plus
motivated
attendre,
and liking the
puisqu'on est
game
un
is
petit peu en
obviously
retard, on va
a
regarder
plus.
le clip de la
And
prochaine
obviously
épreuve
we
qui est
are
donc
going to
Donkey Kong
stream
Country, et on se retrouve juste après pour
have
regarder les fiches
his
des
race
runners.
on
À tout de
stream
suite.
À tout de
for the two races, so it's going to be interesting. And I don't know who we are going to stream with, but yeah, DKC obviously very well-known game, very well-known speedrun. Speed Gaming had a tourney about a year ago on all stages, same category as we are doing on the UD6.
Yeah, and we've had Donkey Kong featured on the channel in numerous forms, and you know, including other entries in the series in particular. We also the community did a race celebrating the 25th anniversary, I think, of the release of. Well, actually, it was all the games in the series, so it was like one of them's 25th birthday, and one of them's 26th, and one of them's 27th, but they all came out around the same day, so there was a nice sort of birthday race that we also streamed on the channel. So it's no surprise because this game has attracted so many speedrunners to it. There's a lot of things that people have learned how to go fast, really neat tricks. Some of them pretty much impossible for our poor runners to have learned in just a week, and some of them very doable. So I'm excited to see, which roles these players are going to be going for.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because obviously if you just know the world record, there are like crazy strats, frame perfect strats you can go for, but like in a race setting, you just don't want to go for everything, and just when you're new to the game, you cannot do everything. So Devil Tifa is going to be featured with a 42-47 as a PB and a very nicely already almost full player card, very nice. It's not first everywhere, but he had a good start on the season, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. You can see has managed to get a couple PBs in race situations. And we see that in Shovel Knight and A Story About My Uncle. We see that Bronze Lightning Bolt sort of badge achievement unlocked, and some other ones still unlocked, still mysteries.
Yeah, obviously 10 games in the season, so we have to wait for a couple of weeks still to get all the games. We are going to announce the 7th game today at the end of the 2 races, so it's going to be exciting because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big surprise for a lot of runners. And we have Parisian player. He is a veteran player on DKC. He got a 37-48. That's not his PB. That's just the UD PB. So it's a time you can submit after the announce of the game. So that's his best since last week, and that's still like a very good time. Is going to be very hard to beat. And we have Toru, which is he is at 999 points, so one short of the big 1000. Just need like any PB will do on any game, and obviously as soon as we are going to launch trial, I will launch the 7th game. It's going to be very easy to grab a couple of points and just get that started. Obviously, we are starting DKC all stages with just one player, and the goal is to beat every single level. Exiting every single level but you can do whatever you want, glitch-wise, trick-wise. You can use whatever character you want. It's a very interesting speedrun. I love watching it actually.
Yeah, it is. It has a flow to it that can maybe get broken a little bit when you're just playing it for the first time because you need to be careful about everything that's coming up. But speedrunners, of course, have a pretty good idea of what's coming up and what buttons to press when. And I think one of the things that really contributes to that fantastic sense of flow that makes this game so fun to watch has got to be this rolling mechanic. Rolling through enemies increases your speed, and there's also mechanics to extend the roll, the extendo, and the places where it can hurt more than help. So players are going to be using it intelligently to go fast, but basically you want to be releasing Y as you roll through enemies and repressing before you finish the roll to kind of initiate a new roll, and you'll keep some of your speed that you've built up after rolling through enemies. And if you really get going, once you get through 4 enemies, your speed basically has quadrupled.
Yeah, each time you roll through an enemy, your speed increases, and as you can see, we can see here Devil Tifa getting hit sadly here, and yeah, I was saying just going through a couple of enemies, you get a lot of speed. You want to play with Diddy. Diddy Kong is way better. He is faster. He is lighter. He has like a couple of issues rolling through bigger enemies, but except for that, he's just the speedrun choice. And as soon as you see one player playing with Donkey, that means that he is in some trouble. He might die just because he is off rhythm. He doesn't remember exactly how to play with Donkey, but there are a lot of barrels containing Diddy, so I don't know what's going on lower story-wise, but Diddy Kong has been trapped into barrels at multiple places, and you can save him like all the time.
That is a good question. How do those Kongs get in those barrels? How does the fish get in that box? How does that box get where it is? It doesn't matter. Speedrunners don't question these things. Just go on guard. The swordfish here is a really fast way of traversing through a lot of these levels, not just for the increased speed, but also this dash attack, the sort of, bucking bull sort of thing that gets going here, that I think I like more with Donkey Kong riding than Diddy. We normally Diddy's feet kicking. But, not only, he goes faster, he attacks. He also gets invincibility frames while he is dashing. So we'll probably see the players go for some sort of not clipping through enemies, but getting through enemies that certainly would normally hit you.
Yeah, by the power of iframes, you just go through the all the enemies, the crushers, the croctopuses. You can do a lot of crazy stuff with On Guard. Like it's, but yeah, even though that level went very fast because it's the first water level, it is one very tough to optimize, and all the water levels are going to be the hardest to get fast at. Like it's not the hardest just to beat, but to optimize, it's incredibly hard. All the runners here are very close to each other. Entering the first boss, we have 6 bosses plus the final boss. And Noti's lair is, not too hard. Just jump on his face after he jumps, and yeah, it's done as soon as he started. It's not a big deal. And yeah, very close finish for the first wall between Parisian player Bermundo Devil Tifa. Toru is just 10 seconds shy. He can make that up. Like as soon as you die in that game, you will lose a lot of time, and you can lose time everywhere. If you miss one roll, you are going to lose time. If you lose those roll jump out of the platforms, you can like just miss something. And yeah, very nice rolls here by Persian player at the end of the levels through the Neki and those. I don't remember the name of every enemy yet, but I will get good at it. And thankfully, the devs put a hidden barrel at the start of that minecart level, and it's already done. Very nice.
Yeah, I don't actually know what Minecart Carnage looks like.
It's
everyone
hard.
just skips it here.
It is one of the hardest level in the games, in my opinion. Like it is all about memorization, and the slightest mistake will kill you. You cannot, like, if your monkeys fall into a pit, they just both die. You don't have a chance. So it's one very hard level, and being able to skip it is sure a nice thing, because you wouldn't want to die in an auto-scroller that way and lose like a bunch of time. And we are going to see that a lot in DKC, because there are a lot of levels we will barely see in the speedrun, because you can just like, yeah, there's a barrel, bye.
Right, yeah, sometimes they're I can't. Well, I don't know. A lot of the times these are just intended secrets that are very hard to find, but you can find. And sometimes I think it's like they had something for testing that they like left or just hide off the top of the screen, or what? Because the players are going to be doing some pretty weird stuff to get to some off-screen barrels that will warp you halfway or most of the way through a level. And they're also going to be doing some stuff that's definitely not intended when we get to Orangutan Gang.
Yeah, and we are going to
Oh,
see
here we go.
something weird here because, like, as you can see, all that setup is not for loss. Donkey Kong died in a very specific way in the on the slope, and sadly missed.
Oh.
Persian player missed the super jump, so he has to clear the level normally, as Bermundo is setting it up, so you lose Donkey in a specific way, and you can see his death animation is off, and then you just bounce on the enemy there, and you catch an hidden barrel that is hidden like very high in the level. I don't know how you are normally supposed to get it. Maybe you are
Right.
not supposed to get it ever.
That's what I was thinking. I think it was like a dev test exit or something that was left in the game. Either way, that is going to be a setback for a Parisian player opted to die again rather than try to complete the stage normally. That's just how much time it saves. It's how important the second time a Parisian player gets it is now firmly behind all three of the other players who are very close finishing out the second world.
Yeah, and once again, the bosses are no big deal in DKC. Like, it's a good thing after like Eye of Sorrow and Shovel Knight, where the boss fights are so important for the speedrunners. Here, it's just like, yeah, I'm going to jump a bunch of time on the head of that giant Neki. I don't remember its name, and it's dead already. Very nice. Devil Tifa remembering on treetop to get that early barrel, and it's already done. Once again, a lot of those levels are about 20 seconds, and some levels you want to super jump above them, and some levels you are going to have to do them normally, and I feel like those are the hardest. Setting up a super jump here, just losing Didi and getting him back, and then you want to land on the ground and then jump, get that enemy to jump under you, and it just sends you flying all above the level. And that's one hard level also, with those bees that are the meanest enemies in any games.
Oh, Barramondo missed it. So he's going to have to try that again. Parisian player also as well in the previous stage, maybe it was Treetop something again. The levels all kind of run together. Treetop Town maybe? No, the one before that. Either way. There's a warp barrel that only appears for Donkey Kong, and you need to rush into it, and the player lost Donkey Kong. And by the time he got him back, I guess he felt like it wasn't going to be enough time, so he took a trouble for a couple players.
Okay, Bermundo did it nicely. He is like very close to behind Toru, and Devil Tifa had no problem whatsoever in any trick. So doing it perfectly the first time gets you fast. Getting Espresso, the ostrich, probably the best animal companion you can get in that game. It's a super fast bird. It can flap its wings to give you like some airtime. And if you do remember what's happening the next after the next jump, you can just breathe through the levels. It's just an effort of memorization. You said it earlier, but you cannot see much further on the screen. It's a very tight camera on your monkey, and you can see like Donkey Kong can barely fit on the screen there, and that's just how much room you have for visual cues. So that can be tough sometimes.
It can be, certainly, and even this is the middle of the day here for these players. Eventually they're going to get absolutely no visual information once some of these levels where the lights start turning off or just very dim. You can definitely get your brightness on your TV up or your monitor or whatever so that you can see properly in some of these dark levels, but it was definitely something I had trouble with. So Devil Tifa showing off a really nice glitch there that we've already missed. Let's instead turn our eyes to Toru is he has both Kongs, but he needs one sprite here. So we got inside the funky barrel, and by mashing buttons at some of these bends in the road on the map, for some reason, the game, there's like a frame where you pause, and if you press a button to enter a stage on that frame, decides, well, he's trying to enter a stage, got to put him somewhere. It puts you inside orangutan gang most of the way through the level. So even though you have to, leave, get in the funky barrel, go all the way back to the map, it is actually going to save you about 10 seconds over the other fastest strat. And it means we don't see too much of a pretty cool level with the nice sunset there, but it is a cool trick.
Yeah, and being able, even if it was just the same duration, being able to not having to remember the entire level and all the fast strats, just being able to do, okay, I will grab the funky plane and just do whatever I can to get to the exit of the level, which is, once again, you have to reach all the exits, but you don't have to enter the level properly. It's just like a good thing, because once again, it's a very long game. You have to remember everything that's happening on after each jump, and just having that less to remember is very nice. That B fight is interesting also, because I don't remember, it is the left barrel that has 1 frame of lag, so the optimal way to beat it is just to use the right barrel, but you have to be very spot on with your execution for that to be worth it. So obviously the runners after just a week are using whatever they can to throw the barrels as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely the highest priority is making sure your hits land on the B as yellow if you can. Toru's kind of stuck in a bad pattern here, I feel, with the B becoming vulnerable, mostly out of reach. You can definitely go up there and get him, but it's not easy, especially with Diddy. There's a good chance you're going to throw your barrel away and whiff, so is playing it pretty safe here, waiting for the B to come down before landing those hits. But Double Tifa is still in the lead here, and into some of these snow levels, which I feel is when the game really starts to step up the difficulty.
Yeah, it is now that we are halfway through the game almost, that the game is like, okay, now it's going to get hard. You have to be precise with your jumping, your barrels that are turning around, you have to know when to press your button, and yeah, now that's all is happening at once almost in the caves world. It gets scary, and once again, in Donkey Kong, everything can kill you very, very fast, and you have few extra lives to work with, so you have to be very, very mindful of not dying, not only because it costs time, but also because you might not be able to complete the game if you do die too often.
Managing to get inside the barrel with D to warp pretty much to the end of this stage. A couple more ropes you got to climb on, but in order to get into the barrel as Diddy, you need to be doing some shenanigans to climb the rope off the top of the screen, and is having some trouble jumping up this rope. Jumping up one single rope is actually quite difficult. The left-right inputs need to be very... and also to get off the top of the screen on a rope, you need to be holding down most of the way, otherwise you'll kind of clip back onto the screen. So Toru is going to take the time to switch to Donkey Kong and then switch back, which all told makes just a little bit slower, but it's a heck of a lot easier to just jump in that barrel with Donkey Kong than it is to do that off-screen tech that we saw Double Tifa do.
Yeah, that game is pretty technical when it comes to the fastest strat, and choosing just to go with the monkey swap and just go, okay, it's easier with Donkey, actually saved him time to compared to Devil Tifa, because Devil Tifa failed the jump once. So you want to be to like, it's not about, it's your training has to be spot on when you do decide what to learn and what to skip, and you cannot learn everything on that game on the first time you start running it. So you have to go, okay, that strat is not worth it, that strat I will do, and maybe your learning is going to be slower because you are putting more harder strats, and or maybe it's going to be faster but because you learn very quickly, but having like a run and an entire run going is going to be harder. And that's why it's very interesting in the UD6 seeing all those runners learning different stuff, and even doing that, they are very close to each other. You can see Parisian Player and Berrymondo on the same level here. Devil Thief has just one level ahead, and yeah, Toru is on the same level as Parisian Player and Berrymondo, just a little bit behind, but very, very close race. I'm very surprised it is so close just after a week.
Yeah, it is very close. Baron is going to be the first one to hit this level. This is a treacherous level here. The players make it look easy, like, oh, well, you just get the bird and the bird flies and it skips all these gaps. But if you get hit here and lose Espresso, the stage drastically changes. All your strats go out the window. You're going to have to improvise. It becomes very slow, very long. So it's you can see the players taking plenty of opportunities to land at whatever platform looks good and safe. And even Devil Tifa, who's been going for some of the faster stuff, like we saw getting into the barrel with Diddy, chose to play that level very safely, taking some pauses to make sure he found some good footing.
The level is supposed to go that way. You get Espresso the ostrich, and then you go for one jump, and then you get hit, and you lose Espresso, and then the knockback sends you into a pit, and you just died. And that's usually how it goes when you are learning the level. And if you don't remember the entire sequence, like spot on, no mistakes, no hesitation, you are going to die. So yeah, taking it slow and just learning the safer strats, and then going for the entire level faster is going to be a long process. So I understand the choice. Croctopus Chase here.
Yeah.
Very tough.
Couldn't quite decide whether to go left or right at break. Saw a gap in the level, which is where you can get some goodies, and particularly you can get on guard, I think, at around the halfway barrel. But went the wrong way, lost his momentum. That's the way these swimming levels work. Very momentum based. Preserving it through all of these turns is very tough, very difficult. So he ended up getting hit, has lost Diddy, is going to need to make up for that. In the somewhere right away. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Probably one of the hardest level in the game. If you want to go fast, and you do in a speedrun, usually you don't want to turn on the light. And if you don't get, I don't remember the bird name that gets you the light, but
might just be like squawks or something. But yeah.
Like, once again, getting used to all the names, like the Kremlins and the Nekis, and that's all I know so far. And the Croctopuses, because I like that name. But yeah, once again, doing it in the dark is going to be very scary for new players, but it does save some time, so you might get used to it very early. But if you do die because you cannot see it, as we've seen on Thursday, the community race we did stream on Speed Gaming, a lot of players died because no light, and yeah, you are going to lose some time. So it's a trade-off. You have to be very, very good at memorizing everything that's going on. Very hard level also here for Devil Tifa, with a lot of precise jump and the roll jumping that has to be perfect with all those tires and all the those red bees that are not moving. You cannot hurt them. Scary bees.
I mean, bees in any form are pretty scary, but you're right. The red ones are their special brand of terrifying. Tires are rather finicky, especially if you're trying to really go fast. You want to be rolling off of them rather than jumping off of them, and that requires an input that's kind of on the edge of the tire, and obviously running towards the edge of a very small platform. Trying to do something rather precise can be a recipe for disaster, so a lot of players are going to be playing it safe and bouncing up on the tires over several gaps rather than going for a lot of those rolls. But if you watch a top player go ham on that level, you'll see some pretty incredible stuff rolling off those tires and getting underneath those bees as well.
Yeah, that is some crazy, scary strats, but you can go for. The fourth boss we just seen is probably the most underwhelming boss in the video game history. It's just the same as the first world boss. It just has one extra pattern at the end of the fight. But if you do lose Donkey right exactly as the last pattern starts, you can just note he can will just revert to its default jumping, and it makes for a super fast boss fight. Devil Tifa did not do that, so he is maybe going to lose time to the other runners that might do it. But he did super jump above the entire level here. It's a tough one with with a lot of precise jumping on the old barrels that are flaming, and the flame hurts you just on the center of the barrel and when the flame is completely out, but it does take some precise movement, so just super jumping above the level is understandable.
Yeah, particularly Diddy is able to stand on the edges of the barrels. I'm pretty sure Donkey will have a lot more trouble abusing the hitbox on those. But either way, it is pretty tricky. Devil Tifa not going to show us of what Trick Track Trek looks like. Another barrel hidden just off screen that will warp you to the end. So for now, enjoys a 2-stage lead, but probably won't be holding on to this for too much longer. We're not seeing super jumps from Parisian or Barumando in, I think it's Oil Drum Alley. There's 2 Oil Drum levels. I can't remember which is which.
Yeah,
but
Bermundo did just set it up and got it very fast, but a Parisian player indeed is not doing it. So oh, and Devil Tifa dies actually. So all his lead is going to vanish right away. Because it was not that much. He has the scary Donkey Kong that is almost synonym of death in that speedrun. So he has to take it slow here.
it's pretty drastic, but it's true. The namesake of the game is quite a bit more unwieldy, and even if he can pretty much do what did he do, Cesar, you're not going to know how to do it. And it's going to feel weird because all of his animations, all the beautiful animations that they have for the models and sprites in this game, are totally different with Donkey Kong compared to Diddy. The cues for when to jump out of a roll and where his hitbox is while he's rolling versus while he's running. It's all different. And in a game about trying to feel out where the hitboxes are on these really detailed sprites. It's even just that, and in addition to the slower movement and small jumps, is enough to throw you off. Devil Tifa,
very greedy
down
jump here, trying to skip some cycles, and sadly, yeah, that was almost the end of the level, and having to start over again from the checkpoint. He's right behind Bermundo, if I'm correct. Oh no, Bermundo is just getting the checkpoint right now, so okay, it's very, very close. Devil Tifa is at the G letter, which is always a good way to tell where the runners are in the level, because you want to write out key O and G to get that extra life, and the letters are always in order, so that's a good way to tell. But yeah, Devil Tifa died twice and still in the lead. Very, very good run for him.
Yeah, I definitely caught a couple players stuck with Donkey Kong as well, so had their own experiences and troubles. Parisian player actually for a super jump in this level, not quite as fast as if you're going all out, but it is a very strong alternative, very safe alternative, and actually didn't let go of jump quite soon enough, so almost overshot. There's actually a danger of getting stuck in a wall if you go for that super jump. I don't know if you're too early or too late or what, but either way, Parisian players find is joining Barumando and Devil Tifa now in the Poison Pond.
It's probably one of the hardest level, just because once again the weather level are very hard to optimize, and this one is very long. It's always seemingly the same, so remembering exactly how to go through that level can be tricky. There's like a cute shortcut Devil Tifa is taking right here, very nice, just to skip a few extra parts of the level. And yeah, you have to buck all the time with on guard, but it can be tricky. It can help go through those crushers, but yeah, if you are not precise enough with your inputs, you are going to lose your iframes too early or too late, and you might just take the hit. But you can grab the grab on guard again, which is very nice. And Devil Tifa demonstrate here the infinite roll glitch, which if you don't jump into the cart, the first cart, you just walk over the ledge and land on it, and then take a hit on a bee with Donkey Kong. The game is going to be to think that you are still in the ground, and until you actually touch ground, it's still going to allow you to roll jump all the time. So it's way faster than just doing the good old minecart level. But sadly, you are going to lose that infinite roll ability at the midway point of the level, so you have to go through the second half normally.
I was wondering if it was because I definitely knew that the route was to get back in the cart, but I didn't actually know the why part of it until just then. I was wondering if like you can't quite get to the exit properly because it puts you in this weird state. So that's good to know. Jumping up slopes in the minecart, I don't think makes a difference in this game, but there are different other Donkey Kong Country games where you do want to be jumping up and down slopes in the minecarts as the players are chasing Devil Tifa, who is now into this really tough blackout thing level here.
This one is a scary one because the light goes in and out, on and off, and you cannot control that. So you do either have to wait or to remember exactly what's going to happen next, and everything is on a local timer. So as soon as you load something close to you, you are going to trigger it. And so if you do get too fast or too slow close to a moving platform or a rope, you might be off timing and just fall to your death. So you have to, Devil Tifa is taking it very slow here. He'd rather do that than dying, which I understand totally.
Yeah, he did take it, had to switch to, well, not really switch, but was, only left with Donkey Kong and Parisian player slipping just a little shy on that jump, which means Romando in second place now. The Parisian player definitely not too far behind, as Devil Tifa is now moving on to boss drum here. It's pretty... Oh, he missed it, actually. Donkey Kong makes this boss a lot easier. All he needs to do is bounce off the first one and directly into the second one as it comes out of the drum.
So you just have to kill the enemies that come out of the drum, and the boss is going to kill itself after 6 cycle. Once again, the bosses are not the meat of that speedrun. You just have to know what's happening, and soon enough it'll be over. And we are almost at the end of the game, and we are at 29 minutes. Those are very, very good runs. Parisian player in the boss fight also. Bermondo must have died because he was very close behind Devil Tifa, and is now third place here, just ahead of Toru, which just started the blackout level. So it's a tough one. We are on the final word for Devil Tifa, starting with Tongue Top Trouble. Those platforms that are moving, and you have to refill them for them not to fall and kill you. Those are very tricky levels. Those are the levels I could not beat as a kid, and just gave up on that game and never seen the end, because those are precise level, and for speedrunners it's even worse, because there are some roll jumps that are very precise, and some nifty tricks you can try, and if you do go for them, it's some most complicated levels.
Yeah, that looks like Devil Tifa is going to be going for it. Had one attempt earlier and it didn't work out, and he decided to kill. Here we go. Spawn this bird, really take him nice and low, press the button as soon as you walk off the edge, and ideally that initiates a jump roll, and you get to roll as Diddy through the air all the way through pretty much the rest of the level. And I guess it wasn't actually feeling the trick. It was more that he lost Diddy, I think, is what caused him to retry that one. But I think when you roll through the enemy like that, it means you were too late on your roll. It is frame perfect. It's very finicky. Even the setup is finicky. But it doesn't hurt too much to at least tries. I think a lot of the players are going to be setting it up and then seeing what happens, basically.
Yeah, that's a trick we are not going to see successful too much because the setup is quite precise, and then it's a frame perfect input at a game running at 60 FPS, so like you are most likely going to be 1 frame late or 1 frame early rather than being precisely on it, and sadly that's just how those tricks work, but that makes it for some more exciting times where we finally are going to see it, and the more we see runners trying, the more successful they can be. Just ducking here, we get through that section, very nice. Those bees have some very weird hitboxes, and we are right at the end. That's probably the longest level in the game.
I think so, yeah, and it's one of the reasons why the jump roll makes such a big difference. It cuts a 2-minute stage down to 5 seconds or so, if you can get it. And so even if it is incredibly difficult, the fact that you often don't get penalized if you mess it up, combined with the fact that it gives you such a big payoff if you do pull it, is why I think some players have taken the time to learn it.
Yeah, that's like you can do it in a couple of other levels, but usually it's just like if you do miss it, you are going to die, so you'd rather not try it. Obviously, those tricks, when you are not punished for them, it's always very nice. It's just like, why not? The platform is moving at a constant rhythm, so anyway, you are going to wait, so you could do something with your time during the waiting. Super jumping here above the entire level. I don't think that's the fastest strat, but obviously, once again, when you are learning the game, being able, not having to remember 1 extra level is very nice. Just remember the bare minimum, and you will add more and more other levels into your run. Devil Too Fast setting up a super jump here once again and getting it first try. No trouble whatsoever for all the runners to get those super jumps, which is very nice to see.
These are not totally free. They're definitely not jump rolls. But there's some rules you need to adhere to make it work. Particularly your inputs once you finally do switch Kong, who has kind of stored the super jump state. Misty Mines is, I believe, what this level is, and this is it looks like Prison Player. Pretty sure I saw Diddy jump off the top, so if he was to get Diddy back, I think he would be able to initiate a super jump, but I'm not seeing any DK barrels. This is compared to the Randy level that Baramon just finished and was in. That is a really, super jump is not as fast as if you go through it with all the speed strats, but you need to work really hard to get your couple of seconds. And Rambi in particular really sucks. They made him control like a rhino in a lot of ways. He literally just has extra input delay on his jumps. He likes to attack things you don't want him to attack, and things like this. So definitely understandable. Misty Mine, however, if you know how to roll through the enemies, there's a ton of enemies spawning from these barrels, so you can get it going up to high speeds and catch this level very quickly if you go for those strats. So it was the players were giving up more here if to do the super in this level.
I love the all that game has done and all that was kept for the newer Donkey Kong Country games, Returns and Tropical Freeze. Everything almost that we are saying is still true. Both monkeys don't handle the same. Rambi is a nightmare. Like it's very, very funny to see how well the game has actually aged, if not visually, just mechanically. It's very nice, and once again, the existing community made it very, very nice for the UD runners to just pick it up. So we can see though Devil Tifa going very slow in that level. It just feels slow, so in DKC that means it's not the fastest strats possible. But once again, the levels where the light goes on and off are probably the hardest, and we are right at the end of the game here, so you have a lot of enemies, and and Devil Tifa jumps too early there and just dies.
So that is a setback. Is going to have the lead still by about half a level or so, and it is a very difficult level. Like you said, lights on, lights off, and not only that, but the clap traps here, which are one of the most annoying enemies with their big open chomping mouths. They jump when you jump in this level, so naturally when one is coming along the ground at you, you want to jump over it, and now it has this nasty tendency to jump up into you when you jump, so you're constantly worrying about where am I in the dark, where are they in the dark, and when can I jump, how do I jump to manipulate them to get them out of my way safely.
Devil Tifa being scary here, but gets the halfway checkpoint, and I'm very interested to see if he will go for the jump roll later on this level, because he died at least 2 or 3 times on Thursday's race going for it, and those jump roll, when you see them executed correctly, can feel like nothing, but when you have to execute them, you never go far enough, and you just are shy a couple of pixels and you will die, even though it looks like it's a pretty easy jump. This one
went for the jump roll, missed it, and then died, and then died again here in this really tough platform peril stage. Was getting kind of close to Devil Tifa, but as Devil Tifa's now finished the level, it's definitely pulled out in front. Just one more rematch with Neki, who is a little harder to execute on this time around. Coconuts, you need to be a little more precise and be a little more patient, I guess, than anything. And then got the final stand with King K. Rool.
The Neki fight here is the only instance of RNG in the game. The height at which the bird appears is random, so you can get. It doesn't cost you time, it's just you have to prepare for where to jump correctly. And we get to the Gangplank Galleon here to fight with King K. Rool. So the runners that are used to the game can say exactly what the final time is going to be, because that fight is always the same duration. You just want to jump on King K. Rool's head as soon as possible. You can even get it so early that it's the first frame where he launches his crown, and you can still see his crown on his head as he takes the hit. So that's the only little time saver you can go for, and except that it's always going to be the same patterns, and you just have to remember what's going on and not to be too silly with the jumping, and just keep focused up until the end.
Yeah, Devil Tifa was trying to find a sweet spot here, is looking for some kind of visual cue. Certainly there's plenty. Is maybe losing focus here a little bit. Has lost a Diddy, is now stuck with them. Boss fight is pretty long. I'm pretty sure you don't get another DK barrel, so is as straightforward as it is. You do need to maintain your concentration for a while in order to finish it, and you only get the one free hit take. Okay, so there it is. So King K. Rool is dead. The day has been saved. We're gonna go ahead and roll the credits now. Congratulations to Devil Tifa. Wait a minute, something's up here.
I love those fake credits. It's the best. Like, you feel like it could be a joke, right? Like the end of Castlevania on NES. Credits,
we do have Barramundo on stream.
Yeah, Barramundo on the same level, actually, ahead of Persian Player, which is a crazy performance. And then second phase after the fake credit on King K. Rool. Be very careful, Devil Tifa. If you die here, you lose about 2 minutes. So just keep focused, stay in it, and remember how the jumping patterns goes, and will be over soon. Yeah, it is scary, and jumping with skincare world is very very tempting. But yeah, that is done. Very very nice run. PB probably for Devil Tifa with a 40-35 or so. Very 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 nice nice run.
All the players now in the K rule fight, like you said, Baramondo catching up to and hopefully passing Parisian player here. Certainly, you know, it's pretty much already written. Fantastic job, all the players in our race today, and I know that Parisian player also has a particular skill when it comes to playing video games, and that's doing it blindfolded.
Wow.
Which normally when we talk blind runs in this game, or in any game in speedrunning, it's just simply that you haven't played it before. You're seeing it for the first time. But there are players who actually compete to not compete, but sort of specialize in playing games blindfold. They can't see. They're relying purely on memory and audio information. And I can't remember if it was this game or another, or in the series, or if it was a Zelda game. But
that's different.
It is different. Parisian player also pretty good at Link to the Past. Also does like ×2 and ×4 speed and stuff on it. So it's into some pretty weird extra challenges. That stuff certainly helps in, say, the very dark levels of this game, and certainly past experience of the game will help as well. But you need to perform on race day like we've seen from Parisian player Tifa, Baramondo, and now Toru has only... but all the players doing well. Look at some other players here. Magic K also on K-Roll fight. Draconis just pretty much one level in a boss fight away from the final showdown here as well.
Yeah, King Carol is so long that we are going to see a lot of runners and start King Carol as the previous one just ends it. Jaken is a bit earlier on the game. He might have the time to beat the game, but it's going to be close because he's not. He might not have the time because he still have one entire wall to go through, and the cutoff for the 100 points, which is like the end of the tourneys, is at 50 minutes. So that's quite short. Like, you want to know exactly what you're doing. 50 minutes is probably a time you can get with easier strats in DKC, but once you start dying and going off cycle on some places and just like not remembering the entire layout of a level, it might get very very tricky.
Yeah, you could go for pretty much all the super jumps as safeties in levels to really, really play it safe. And I think you could still get with a clean run, which is a big ask, obviously. There's a lot of potential places to die in this game.
Oh, yeah, dying
like
in the
we
bosses.
maybe just saw.
Yeah, you can die pretty much everywhere. And Dustpan, which did the commentary with me on Thursday, did say that his King Carol fight was certainly not a 100% win rate, so it's maybe close to it, but you will die a non-zero amount of time everywhere, I think, in that game with enough time given. So you'd rather die in training rather than in races, obviously, but some accident will happen, and it's all up to the player to see how they adapt and react to everything that goes wrong into their no reset runs.
Toru showing us some more of the credit. We get to see some more boss names and enemy. Honest now done with Neki, and going to be moving on to that final encounter. And if the cutoff, it does have enough time here. Magic K also done as well, and then Jaikin, like you said, gonna have their work cut out for him to clear out this world. in 5 minutes, especially with this really long stage left to go. Would technically have to go for the jump roll, have a chance of making it at this point. But something tells me we're not going to see it. So let's
Yeah.
just look at this final boss fight here from Draconis.
That those two last final fights are very long, and you want to be at the end of right at the end of World 6 at the boss fight. I feel like at maybe 47 minutes, just to be sure you have the time to beat the game by the cutoff, which is going to be depressing for some runners, which feel like they've done very well during the race, but just barely missed the mark because of those two super long fights right at the end of the game. But beating DKC in one sitting is in less than an hour is already very, very nice. So yeah, and once again, learning it in just barely a week is impressive. So UD is long; they have way more time to beat the game faster and do better in races. So no worry, some runners do learn faster than the other. And once again, it's hard to say what is the best strat for DKC, as you have so much resources and so many strats to learn or to try out to decide what you're going to do in races.
Right. It does create some interesting situations for players. UD is very long, but there's also a lot of games. So if you do kind of average it out across all 10 games, you a little over 2 weeks, and we're only 1 week in here. So by that reasoning, you've got a week to work on DKC, but you're free to spend your time on the games as you see fit. And so a really long, rich speed run like Donkey Kong Country could certainly call for some more of your attention than say something like a Spectra that is a really short and sweet run where you just focus on getting a couple tricks and that will to get you through games. So we have 2 weeks or 3 weeks on Donkey Kong, and whether that affects if they take the time to learn new things, and in that process having to kind of unlearn something you already spent time learning. Is this going to be worth my time? Is this going to up my consistency? Is it going to lower my consistency? There's a lot of trade-offs and decisions that go into the overall sort of strategy behind Ultimate Decathlon.
Yeah, and speaking of the overall strategy, we are now like 6 weeks into the event. We are going to announce the 7th game right at the end of that stream, and we started with Shovel Knight a bunch of weeks ago now, and some runners did not play through Shovel Knight again since maybe like week 3 or 4. They just like had some new runs to go for and to learn. So would you personally, Mythical, go for relearning, repracticing all the games? Would you wait for the final week and just we are going to have 2 weeks with of break before the first competitive tourney on July, so maybe take the time during early July to replay through the 10 games, or would you play through Shovel Knight soon enough so you don't forget everything by then?
I feel like I've already forgotten everything. Shovel Knight.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if I do it now or later. I'm still going to be having to relearn mostly everything. So in that sense, that's a problem for me, just memory-wise, perhaps. But there's something to be said for having a sort of living in the moment attitude when it comes to UD6, because it is a lot of fun when the new game gets revealed and everyone dives on it and they start putting time in. There's a whole thing there that is fun to be part of, and so at the very least for the first 10 weeks as the games are being rolled out, I would want to put my focus on each game as it comes out, one by one, as I'm gesturing one by one to myself barely caught on camera for the transitions. The cutoff did just tick over, but yeah, I do expect to probably approach things the same way. But once those 10 weeks are up, and it's all up to the players as to where they spent their time, I think probably their favorite game is gonna pull them away a little more, whatever it ended up being, and then certainly Shovel Knight, Aria, and Donkey Kong, so far of the 10 are the three that I think players probably should go back to sooner than later, because they are the longest. They're the ones that sheer length, but just depth of things to learn in kinds of things.
As the second race is being prepared and starts soon enough, we are going to have the rankings of that first race, obviously shown very soon as all the players submitted their time. Once again, the same traditional question I like to ask is: do you think the runners are going to do better or worse on the second race? Usually they go for better. Usually a lot of players, like I say, maybe like 80% of the players are actually doing better on the second race. For some reason, because they just practiced, because they're less rusty now, or just because they're getting into it. Like a lot of reasons to just do better on the second race. But maybe DKC being a longer game is going to be harder. You have a lot of tricks to pull off and to go for, so I don't know.
I feel like you're right on maybe more to some of the other games. It is a tough game, and it's one where I feel like one mistake, a mistake costs a lot, but once you make one mistake, it just feels really bad. So I think it's one of those things where a player could just absolutely fall apart. We don't want to see, obviously, but in terms of overall execution, I do think the pattern will hold. I do think the players will play even stronger, even though they already played strong, as we can see Double Tiva finishing in first with a very good 163 points, and a nice cascade all the way down to 6 for some really solid times. Draconis, the 7th player. We also had Pipico just off stream, finishing just above the cutoff at the 100-point mark.
So Devil Tifa actually is the biggest surprise here, even though maybe we expected him to be first, because those 10 points is ahead of Toru, Bermondo, and Persian player. It got just that much of a PB right now. It got like about 2 minutes of a PB, and that's about 15 points. So it's a very close one. Either you go for the same time or better, which would be insane, like 2 PBs back to back on stream, like no reset. That would be very crazy for him. Or it will go for a more like standard time for him, which would be like about 150 points. But Toru Bermondo could like get the same crazy time as Devil Tifa just did to get to first place. And obviously Persian player, his PB is at 178 points, I think. So if he goes for that and gets like a super good time, about like 38 minutes, he will be able to take that first place just for on that second race and overall in the tourney. But that is going to be very interesting. And if the pattern holds for most of the players, they're all going to get almost a PB on the second race, which is crazy.
That would be fun to see, certainly for us, and I'm sure for the players. Looking forward to that. These tournaments that we're doing just a week after the launch of the game, and just before we reveal the next game, are for fun. They're not going to count towards your overall progress towards qualifying for the grand finals. It certainly does feel nice to win, and you can sort of get some going on your player card and things like that. So I was thinking like, well, maybe Double Tifa with a 10-point advantage here could think about doing something safe too. But then you pointed out actually Persian player capable of putting up a much time than we saw in race 1.
Yeah.
So if he wants to, compete with Parisian player, assuming Parisian player does put up that time we kind of expect to see, then he's going to have to probably go pretty much all out to another PB quality run here to really keep it close.
It's I think Bermundo is not going to have time to do the second race, sadly. So we will not keep that against him. But and consider that he would have done better, and maybe that's enough to win the race. But yeah, sadly, some runners don't have time. For those who are new to the UD and UD6, especially, we are just in the early phase of the UD, just announcing one game a week. So the runners get to learn them, get to race them a little bit. That's why we do set up those Saturday tourneys as the second race is going to start just now. But starting in July, we are going to have 3 tournaments. On the first Saturday, we are going to have every runner to compete and do 5 games in a row, and the top 8 is going to qualify to the second Saturday, where we are going to do the 5 other games. And on the next weekend, we are going to do for the 4 best runners the 10 games in a row, 5 on Saturday, 5 on Sunday, and the best 2 runners on those 10 games total will get like a place to the grand finals. And the places for the grand finals are going to be slim, just 8 distributed in July, August and September, with 1 extra chance at the end of the season just to get a place, so a ranking for the grand finals. So it's going to be very exciting. This is just the start, just for the runners to get used to it. But if you do like what we do, just keep in mind that the 14th of July is going to be the first big Saturday with the start of the competitive tournaments of the UD6. And for a lot of runners, what we are going today and each Saturday up until then is a good training, because you want to know exactly how to race the game we are running in the UD6, because obviously running and racing is can be sometimes different sides of the same coin.
And we've been talking a lot about grand finals this, grand finals that. I think we should probably point out that what grand finals actually is theater rented out in France. I don't want to start giving details that didn't quite match up. I'm pretty sure it was like about 500 people in the audience, and you'll have travel paid for, and it's kind of a spectacular thing. So it is quite a prize to get into grand finals and compete, and it's something that I think a lot of players will be striving for. Certainly that top spot means that you're going to have to be contending with the top players, like, for example, Devil Tifa, who's in the top right corner now, chasing the very skilled at DKC Parisian player through the first water level here with On Guard.
Yeah, obviously all the runners are very close to each other. They've demonstrated earlier that they are very good at the early part, at least, of the game. The first death we've seen was actually quite late, and that was pretty nice to see all those runners breeze through all those level. Actually, Magic K is first in the lead right now, getting that DK barrel. Yeah, a couple of seconds ahead of Persian player. Double Tifa just barely about 10 seconds behind. Very, very close race. Toru in 4th place, but once again, that's about like 15 seconds behind Magic K. And yeah, you can see like almost the same screen on both Magic K and Persian player at the bottom of your screen. So very, very close race. And yeah, okay, Magic K did get to the exit a couple of frames earlier than the Persian player.
Yeah, this, you don't expect to see a lead change at this first boss fight, but this is so close at the bottom that we might actually see it. There is a little bit of optimization in terms of being at not right at the peak of the jump. But it looks like Magic K actually, well, maybe there were some stream hiccups or whatever, but either way, the race remains very close. Heading into World 2, Magic K still our leader, but not by much.
Something surprising in the KC is that the worlds are not evenly distributed in biomes. We have that early level in the World 2, 2-1 that is the same look as the later level in the game, and it's probably the most intimidating level early on, but it's not the hardest. Getting that on guard token can actually be scary. If you collect all 3 tokens, you enter a special area that is just like a 2-minute timer and a bunch of tokens to collect, and as soon as you get 100 token you get an extra life using say the animal companion of that token. So if you get all 3 on guard token, you will get to the all the espresso token, sorry, you will get that espresso level that you cannot die in at all, so you have to wait the entire 2 minutes and before keeping on going, which is insanely bad. So you do have to be careful with those.
Yeah, and there is a pretty much undodgeable espresso token waiting in Poison Pond. So Devil Tifa now is very likely going to be sitting at least 2, and will be 1 token away from that 2-minute time. And like we said, that's 15 points. That really big hit to take could basically be the end of Devil Tifa's run for the top spot in our little tournament today. Something to think about, or maybe not think about. Maybe just focus on the platforming and think about it when the time comes.
I love that secret exit on that level. You just hold left and Diddy Kong and Donkey Kong just go into a secret area that drops them at the middle, even not the middle, the end of the level. And that's, I don't know if that's a cute way of doing things or just like a hidden secret or just a beta tester that was didn't want to have to play through the entire level again just to test one final section. I don't know what happened there, but it is pretty weird. And Persian player getting first try the super jump. He is one of the that super jump was one of the few that was failed on the earlier race. So very nicely done for him.
Yeah, I think that when we first saw Devil Tifa drop out of first place position, because of that missing the barrel basically off screen, and you're moving really fast vertically when you do that super jump. You are jumping quite high, so maneuvering into that off-screen barrel is tricky. You get another shot on the way down if you miss it. I actually saw some players practicing what to do if they don't get it on the way up. Where should their camera be so that they land in it on the way down? But it looks like Parisian player and Magic K are going to be our leaders, still very close into this first level of the third world, which is, again, there's a barrel here that only appears for DK, and only if you're very fast. The Parisian player loses DK, I think on purpose. Yeah, Magic K as well.
Yeah, at the end, you don't want to wait on those bees, so you just take a hit. Sadly, Magic K was too slow, so had to wait an extra couple of cycles on that later barrel. And Persian player is already 1 level ahead. Thankfully, that's one very short level, Treetop Town, that we barely see. I need to watch those crazy no major skip categories where you don't. You are not allowed to use those secret barrels to get to the end right away, and you cannot use the super jumps that makes you just go through the entire levels without even seeing them. So, well, you do see them, but you are just floating on top. So, like we see right now on all those red bees. I'm pretty sure.
He gets the super jump, but Parisian player actually died and had to try again. Has since got almost all the way back to this part here. So here's second try, and this one's going to be good, but it does mean Magic K is now maybe 10 seconds ahead of Parisian player.
Devil Tifa is actually quite late to the party there. Just getting finally to that DK barrel at the end of the first level of that world, and we'll still have to do Treetop Town, which is about like 10 seconds, and then get to that super jump. So that's like 3 levels behind Magic K, which is in the lead. And yeah, once again, we've seen Magic K beat the game with about 140 points in 5th position, if I'm correct, on the first race. But obviously he had a bad run, because what we're seeing right now is actually way better than the other runners, and the other runners are ahead of him on the leaderboard after the first race. So maybe we are going to see something interesting at the end of the second race.
Devil Tifa with a bit of trouble. And I don't know quite how it happened, but ended up losing Diddy instead of Donkey in damage boost at the end of the level. So was struggling to at the DK barrel to get his favorite Kong back, but has managed to pull it off and execute on the super jump as well.
Yeah, that super jump is mandatory. I would say that's probably one of the first ones you want to learn, because it's way easier than learning the entire level, and it's just about an auto-scroller waiting for those ropes to slowly move sideways, and yeah, you'd rather just get that super jump done. So that's why we see those runners try again if they do fail it on the first try. And Magic K getting the warp very, very fast at the end of the level right away.
The warp is frame perfect, but you can use pretty much any of the face buttons to enter the level. So various strats exist in terms of how to get it. Some players their finger across all the buttons. Some of them will use multiple fingers and just at the buttons to try to make it happen. But it doesn't take too long to get fully consistent at what is technically a perfect trick. Oh, Toru loses Espresso here. We actually saw Magic K didn't get Espresso in this level, went through it normally. Is a little faster than getting Espresso, but it's much harder. You need to know how to execute properly on and get a lot of the extendo rolls, I think, as well. So most players have been opting for Espresso as a really safe, fast alternative.
It is surprising to me that so many strats on so many levels are very close to each other time-wise. The Espresso on that level is very, very close to not taking it. The super jumps above like a couple of levels are actually slower than the safe strat, but it's not by that much, so it's always like a huge risk you are taking to play it aggressive. And yeah, it is surprising to me it's that it is so close. We see the Ultifa getting the frame perfect input. I don't know, we have to ask, like, do a poll on all the runners. How do you mash your face buttons? It is obviously all the players are doing like some variation, but mashing on all 4 buttons will grant you a better chance, I feel.
For sure. Thankfully, not a lot of mashing required for this boss, just kind of walking back and forth. I think he can actually snipe the barrel you're holding if you let him touch it while you're walking around, so you need to kind of protect yourself and what you're carrying. But either way, it's not too hard. Parisian player is now done and is going to be catching up here, perhaps just a little bit to Magic, who is already going to be showing off this barrel boost that is in this snow level here. Nice sequence, very well done.
Very well executed. If you do hold on those heavy barrels, you get some slope jumps. If you played Mega Man X, you do have the same ones in that game, where you do get some more momentum if you do go like if you do jump in slopes. But in DKC, those are extreme. With the heavy barrels, you do just get boosted super fast and super far away, and that Neki sequence just bouncing back and forth onto Nekis into a barrel just clear the half of the level right away. It's a very, very nice looking trick, and you do have to get your barrel jumping very fast. He chooses to switch monkeys here, uses donkey, and then switch backs again. Once again, that is not too much slower.
Yeah, and it is pretty tricky to do the off-screen shenanigans with Diddy to get in there without the switch. Magic K opting to jump from rope to rope rather than jump back to the same rope again. You need to be pretty far away from the rope and come back in order to really save time going up the one rope. It definitely is faster. You can get there with some practice, but not surprised to see some players opting to go back and forth there.
Okay, the bird level, where you do use Espresso the Ostrich to clear the entire level. And once again, if you do remember the entire sequence perfectly, it's not going to be too hard, but you have to remember on which Neki you can just go through and which will hit you if you do run into them. It is one scary situation sometimes to get into, but yeah, Magic K does a very, very nice job with it, and is almost done there. Yeah, it is fantastic to see those runners that have learned the game so fast and with some pretty aggressive strat, I'd say.
For sure, yeah. These guys are on the edge of a knife in a lot of situations. They're making a lot of jumps blind, with this camera pulled in close as it is in this game. It's pretty often that you're jumping at things or pulling at things that aren't even on screen yet. It's a long run, so having the confidence in your memorization to do a lot of the things that these players are doing has been very impressive. Magic K is going to be just ahead of Parisian Player. This has been kind of the story of the race for pretty much since the beginning, and I think a lot of players are going to catch this level because it is quite a long level, but there's a it might not look like much is going on, but actually quite a lot is going on in terms of cutting these corners.
Yeah, I was surprised when I read the wiki for the guides and the wiki for speedrunning this game with grades on the difficulty on each level, and to get the level as fast as possible, those water levels get the highest grade. Like it's about it goes from 11 to 25 over 10. Like the notation is not a precise thing, but just give you an idea on how tough it is considered to go as fast as possible, because you are going to lose time on cutting corners and just keeping your momentum precisely, because you are going to dodge enemies, and you are going to lose time. But it's a good thing that there's no on-guard on this level, because I feel like it's relaxing not to use them. It's a good fish, but it's the bucking mechanic is quite weird to me, and I'd rather just float and mashing my Y button to get some speed vertically, and that's it. It's way easier, and that's a very, very long level we're seeing.
It sure is. We saw pretty much all players get into this level at some point, pretty similar to platform perils or the King K. Rool fight. It does start to get to that 2-minute mark just about, but Parisian Play Magic K are mostly done. It's pretty disheartening in this level, actually, the first time you play it. When you feel like you've been swimming for a long time and you're like, man, I'll be done soon, and then you see the halfway barrel. Like, oh, okay. I see now. I see how it is. But Parisian Player, just about to wrap. Here's Magic K is already done, and into the not so flashlight based level here, as we've decided to skip it. Like we said, it does lag things quite a bit. Go ahead.
Magic K. No, I was just reacting, but didn't want to necessarily to put it on the light, but he missed the checkpoint and went back for it, which is a good decision and an interesting one, because you have that halfway checkpoint on every level, if I'm not wrong, and I do feel like it's almost, or it is on every level. You do have that halfway checkpoint. It's just the star barrel, and we see a lot of runners taking them and intentionally losing time to take them. That's just saying how much of a time loss it is to die and how often they will die. So we do have to take that into account when runners do race, like taking it slow and just trying not to die, and taking into account that dying is a possibility is a very nice play to me, because that means that Magic K is actually running the race and not just trying to get a PB or doing whatever, which is a good sign for him for the rest of the season. If he does that during like the 10 games in a row, he is going to have a much easier time. And as I was saying, that the rope bridge level went very nicely for him. Once again, he did not go for those crazy tire roll jumps, but we are not going to see much of those, I feel.
Yeah, we did nice, sort of regular roll off a platform from both Magic K and Parisian Player at the end to get under the beat. It's a little trickier when trying to do it off a tire, but you do still need to roll at the edge if you want to not fall as you roll, basically. One of the ways to extend your roll is if falling while you roll, you will continue to roll while you fall. So if you can roll at the very edge, then you will actually shoot out straight across and then start to fall. And that means you get to keep your roll for an extended period of time. It's enough to cross some pretty big gaps like we saw at the end of that previous level. And if you manage to pick up some enemy kills along the way, you can get some ridiculous extended high-speed rolls going.
Magic K and Persian Player going for the same infinite jump glitch there to just, ignore the entire level. This level is probably one of the hardest, and it's a very good decision to skip it. You would need probably to do it regularly if your time would get down to, I don't know, 36, 37 minutes, but you're good just not doing it, and playing with those oil barrels is a scary thing. Magic K is, about 15 to 20 seconds ahead of Persian Player, which is very good for him. At 20 minutes into the run, we passed the halfway point already, and I feel good for Magic K. It's weird to me that the order of that race is not changing much, like we've seen on the first race. DKC is a game with a lot of opportunities to actually die and lose time or something. Oh, careful! I don't want to. I didn't mean that. It's not the time to lose Diddy.
He has lost Diddy here. This could be enough to be a lead change, perhaps. Parisian Player is going for the super jump in this stage, like we saw in race number 1. Has the safe strats for these tricky levels, and tricky enough to trip up. Matt K is still without Diddy here, which means some of the nice tricks you can do with the elevators at the end, getting out early and spawning them so that the cycles line up in such a way as you can it's just a little faster. It's something that it might be possible with Dom, but certainly is quite a bit harder. He's only got one Kong left now, and he's here for this platform. You can roll off and try to make something happen with your jump at the bottom, but it's pretty risky, so he is going to be playing it safe here.
So I do feel bad. Commentator curse, Persian Player did take the lead during that elevator antics level. I don't know if Magic K did lose Diddy and that was enough to throw him off, or if he just took it slow and he was going to lose the lead anyway. But yeah, he's back into it with on guard in the Poison Pond. This is where Devil Tifa is going to get his second espresso token, and I hope he will not grab one last in the next world, in the upcoming world, because that would be a disaster.
For sure. It would be funny though. So, but you're right. For his sake, we certainly wish that it doesn't happen. Parisian player off the shortcut, as he also loses on guard. On guard will probably come back though. At that close to the edge of the stage, maybe just better off to let him go. You're pretty screen on that final section, so I'm pretty surprised that he did get hit, but he did. Magic K is going to be waiting here. Want to try to go cycle, and after the troubles they had in the elevator antics, I don't know.
Antics, yeah.
I guessed, and I totally. There's kind of there's a formula to naming a DKC level that I think I've kind of got a grasp on here. But yeah, because of that level, Magic K has dropped back. Parisian player is cartwheeling through free space here as the players see fit, at least for a little while, with Devil Tifa not too far behind, finishing out the elevator antics level. Well, Pokemon's pretty long level, so maybe there's quite a gap here. And Magic K
died. I don't know if he went for the crazy jump roll, or if he just died because like he stopped cartwheeling into the air or something. Like as soon if you land on anything, the glitch will stop working. The game finally understand that you are not on ground when you are floating in the air, and yeah, just you have to keep on cartwheeling and jumping regularly and not hit anything. Meanwhile, maybe he wanted to grab the checkpoint and did go back and forth and just fell to his death. I don't know what happened, but that's that much time for Devil Tifa to catch up and to Persian player to go full ham on that very scary level. And yeah, once again we see, oh no, he was taking it slow and died right before the checkpoint. Oh no.
Oh, it's on screen as he drops down into the pit. He had some weird movement there. He caught him off guard or something.
Oh yeah, I don't know. He stopped because he did jump too early at some point and wanted to take it slow, and sadly, like, him being playing safe was not rewarding, which is always heartbreaking, because if a player is not too greedy, you want him at least not to die, because he's obviously losing time already for playing it safe. So that's the worst part. And on a lot of speedruns, I don't have enough experience on DKC myself yet, but on a lot of speedruns, taking it slow is probably a good idea if you know how to go slowly, and if you don't know, you are just going to make it worse for you, even if it looks safer. If you don't know how to clear some gaps, like not cartwheeling or not jump rolling, it's going to be even harder.
Right, doing something difficult, but at least you're very well to stat, and also is the thing that kind of comes in your sequence of movements and jumps and inputs and stuff level. If you wanted to throw in something that is safer on paper, but breaks up that flow and messes with your memory and things, it can sometimes be in some ways harder to execute on the safe strat. So maybe some of that was going on Parisian player, because in second time around, that same sequence where he died had a totally different set of movements, barely stopped at all, if at all, was looking very confident, was maybe, going back to what the strats they had in mind, and I think it worked out really well.
All the runners are very close to each other, but Persian player starts World 6 first with that, once again, long level. And in this one, you just have to hope everything goes well. Magic K with a very long boss fight here. okay, with only Didi finally making it, Devil Tifa finishing that on and off light level right before the boss. But the boss is the older boss is very, very long actually. I did not realize that until I've seen how much Magic K is behind compared to the Persian player.
Yeah, another long level that both on. Parisian player going ahead here to spawn this bird so that it cycle ends up a little better, but didn't like something about the setup and decided it was not going to be worth going for the jump roll. Again, it doesn't cost much. All you have to do is roll out ahead of your platform to spawn that bird at a different time to at least, go at trying to set up the jump roll. And not surprised to see player try to go for it here. Match will maybe get an opportunity to do the same. I definitely know Devil Tifa will try to set this up as well. It certainly saves time, and it looks like Magic K is not even going to try to set it up.
Magic K did not go for it. The setup looks actually kind of complicated. You want to get that Neki on the exact correct spot so you can just roll onto it and fall off the platform and roll into it. And it is one precise setup. And the first step before like trying to land the frame perfect input is just having the correct setup, so the Neki is on the correct place at the correct time. Okay, Magic Cave scared me a little because it did not go on to the platform with the tire, but you could jump roll onto the fuel barrel there, which is mandatory. If you do miss one fuel barrel, you are going to die.
Yeah, it is. It's a long level, and each of the individual jumps is not too bad. But that light is blinding. It gets to a pretty scary shade of red, and it is a really long level. So pressure of if I die, I lose all this time is there. So it is definitely a stressful level. And once you start getting nervous, that can maybe affect your play a little bit. Magic at the end of the stage actually playing it really safe as the beavers. I think those are naughties, and then I think the boss is very naughty or really naughty or something. But as waiting out the naughties to fall down, absolutely doesn't want any kind of disaster to happen at the end of the stage, and does manage to finish it.
Devil Tifa got the correct setup on the jump roll glitch on the Neki, but sadly did not get the frame perfect input. Earlier on the first race, he got the roll, which meant he went too early, if I'm correct, and here he did not get it. It just bounced on the Neki, so that meant his input was too late. No one knows how much too early or too late he was. Maybe he was just one frame early and one frame late and just barely missed it, or maybe he was like 20 frames late and no one knows. But it is just good to see the correct setup, because that means the more correct setup we are going to see, the more correct tries we are going to have, and fine, it will happen sometimes. And I'm very happy to see all those runners going for it, because it's once again not too scary if you don't die if you do miss it, so why not?
We're seeing some super jumps from Magic K and Fusion player in Misty Mines here. This is a level that is it's got a lot of enemies, basically. You can see them spawning out of these rooms all the time. And enemies, especially in a flat level, this is a prime opportunity to get your roll on. You can chain them together and get some really long, really fast rolls going through this level. And it makes it quite short, but it also means that you run the risk of running into several of these enemies. You can see there's like 7 naughties there in a row, just begging for a gigantic, massive. I think your speed value that the players look at in the game, the RAM value is like 2048. So that's what it caps out at. It's enough speed to cross from the left right of the screen in I don't know, a quarter of a second or something. It is super fast, super fun, but it is very tricky, and there is that super jump available at the start of the level. So looks like we're going to see quite a few super jumps from our players. Maybe they'll start to change that up as they go throughout the season and get a little better at the game. For now, it's just too tempting to fly pretty much over the entire level.
Yeah, once again, I don't know what's the correct decision. Do you go for one extra level to learn, or do you just try to optimize the other one and go like, okay, this one is a freebie. We'll just go for the super jump and not bother with it, because once again, losing time just to be super safe and have one free level you don't have to learn is probably the better decision in the setting of the UD6. Obviously, if you want to go for the world record, that's wrong. You don't want to do that. But but once again, this is a crazy optimized run with a huge community, and taking it slower on yourself is probably the better way. But once again, the season UD6 season is quite long, and no one knows what we are going to see on that movie theater for the grand finals. So maybe no one is going to go for those super jumps anymore, and maybe it's going to just be so much worth it to grab those extra points. It may reward you. And if once again, if it's a race, it's races. So if everybody goes for it, everybody has the same risk. It's just like that one runner that will not go for it and have one free level where nothing can go wrong. Maybe that's just what's going to decide everything. I don't know.
We'll just have to wait and see. We saw a Parisian player go for a jump roll in this really tricky late level here. That obviously so he's getting pretty close on some of those naughties.
I don't know how much intended that was, but that was looking very slick.
I'm not sure. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure. But I wouldn't be too surprised if that was totally planned by a Parisian player who maintains about half a stage, maybe most of a stage, lead over Magic K, and is pretty much just two boss fights. Oh, Magic!
Magic K did get it. Nice.
So we're jumping. As you can see, you go very fast. There is some finesse here. You actually do have control of Diddy. You can turn and go left. And I can't remember what stage is which, but you want to go left for a little bit. You are gradually losing height. One sub-pixel every frame, or 1 pixel every 256 frames. As rolled all the way to the end of the stage, has made a big ground up between him and Parisian player, who's all done with Neki here. But that is frame perfect, and that is awesome to see.
Yeah, that's actually amazing, because he was so much further behind, and I was already ready to say that Persian player had a crazy good platform pearls and everybody else was going to lose time to him, but actually I was proven wrong, and Magic K just did very well, and now Persian player has to keep on fighting King Carol and not die. And yeah, apparently losing Didi on that fight is optimal, because the fanfare at the end of the first fight is faster slightly with Donkey Kong, so it may be intentional if you see the runners do lose Didi at the end of the fight on the final cycle.
Diddy's fanfare being longer isn't definitely the case in BKC 2. You'll see players well out of their way to make sure they don't hear the beatbox that he pulls out at the end of levels. So definitely not surprised to see more fanfare shenanigans related to him in Donkey Kong 1 here.
It is actually like a concern throughout the entire game. We did not mention it, but you can shorten the fanfare at the end of each level by mashing the face buttons. So definitely a lot of mashing involved in DKC. Persian player gets the fake credits at Magic K is about 2 or 3 cycles from the final hit. So it's a close race. Devil Tifa may once again maybe fast enough to keep his first place, but Persian player did very well on that second race, and I'm actually scared for that victory for the Voltifa. He is like about 2 minutes behind, so that might be too much, sadly.
Yeah, I really don't actually know which way this is going to go. Even Magic K was very close to Parisian player in race number 1. So, how the order of the top 3 and how close they all are is going to be really fun to see. Assuming nothing tragic happens towards the end here, Parisian player has successfully defeated the King of the Kremlings here. Magic K is already past the credits, is looking for just one more hit.
Yeah, and I feel like Magic K is going to have our second sub 40 time on the UD leaderboard, which is crazy good. So in less than a week, Magic K does it about 39:30. Very, very nice time. The Ultima is still on his first cycle, first phase of King K. Rool. Toru died on the roll jump on at the end of Platform Pearls here. Did not go for it the second time around, playing it safe. And Devil Tifa died on King Carol? Okay, that's it for him. Sadly, he's toast. Losing, like, he did not die much, but this is probably the most costly death in the entire game.
I wonder what the time would have been if he had managed to finish it out.
I don't know if he
That's a
died
shame.
before the fake credits or right after it. I was watching on Toru's screen for his end of Platform Pearls. I did not expect the Ultifa to die on King Carol. I know he died on King Carol in his first run of the game, and I thought that was okay. That's your death on King Carol. It will not happen again. But it is so long. It's so tempting just to, do silly stuff, maybe read the chat or I don't know, ask around what the time the other players got or anything. You see the players or usually like jump with King Carol. Maybe that can, do something to their concentration, their focus. So you do want to at least not die twice, let's say.
Yes, let's. Oh, I do see Double Tifa taking jumps on K. Rool a bit more cautiously. Oh, actually, maybe playing it too cautious. Maybe that was the intentional hit, like
Yeah,
we saw
I feel
with the
that was
fanfare.
intentional.
Okay. Yeah, with the credits there, pretty sure that was what happened.
That
Just
was
when
the
it happened
wrong.
as I was speaking, I was like, no way! Oh my god! Okay.
That was the wrong hit. Actually, you want to lose? Did you not lose Donkey Kong?
Oh, right.
Oh, so maybe that was intentional, but forgot to switch the characters. Maybe that was not intentional, and now has to deal with not having that extra chance on the second phase. Um, the boss once again is not too bad if you know, like if you've done it once, you know what's going to happen. But you can take the crown to the face. You can just be slightly off center and just take his gigantic crocodile feet to the face. Everything gonna happen, but yeah, the Ultifat does beat the game in 42 minutes. That's still very nice. That was his old PB before the first race, but sadly did not improve from game 1 to game 2, and that always saddens me a little bit.
I mean, it's one thing to not beat your PB in a race. Oh, boo! I didn't do literally the best I've ever done at this one important moment. It's another thing to not PB because you died King K. Rool.
Yeah, exactly.
There are some frames to be shaved, though. Certainly, jumping on K. Rool as soon as you can. We're getting the final finish there from Toru as well. In a situation where you can't do much to save time, you certainly do want to do everything you can to save time. So, jumping on him, that frame he's vulnerable, becomes pretty tempting, and it can be a way that you get into trouble, get a little bit too early, and get that get that pointy thing shoved a monkey behind a little bit. Unfortunately, it's gonna maybe do Tifa in terms of maintaining the top on our leaderboard for our fun little tournament today.
Yeah, I think that's it for him. Sadly, he's going to lose his second tournament in a row, and maybe he did not care too much for Cuphead and Spectral. That was one tough one in Asahaka last night. What am I saying? Last week, my bad. Did very well, so Devil Tifa could not take the lead at any point. But yeah, on DKC, that's a tough hit, especially after his first race, because maybe Persian player would have gotten like sub 39 on the first race, and Devil Tifa would have go for, okay, he's better than me, I will just take some more time and I will beat him next race. But here he got so close to the first place after PB on the first race that might be tough, especially dying on King Carol. But once again, it is a long process. We will have more deaths on King Carol, I'm sure, but we'll have more PBs during races. And Draconis is playing it safe here, but he barely beat the game under the 15 minutes earlier, so he's close. But once again, about what is it? 3 minutes and a half. From the end of Platform Perils to the end of the run.
It's pretty long for sure. He's gonna have to really hustle if he wants to once again beat that cutoff time. Maybe not as much as Astrum will have to. We see Astrum on stream for the first time in the bottom right corner, who is maybe tapped out here, realizes they can't finish just in time. When we pulled them up, they were solo donkey on Elevator Antics, and so you know that it's not a good situation to be in. But Draconis is in a good situation here to finish this out. Is going to not play it risky and roll off to right off of that other platform and go straight to the end, but he's going to ride it over to the left to come back, finish this out.
That trick does not save that much time. It's just like one platform you're skipping, so like one going back and forth. It's maybe like 5 seconds, and we've seen runners die and lose all their lead just for those 5 seconds. It's crazy. That game can hurt speedrunners in their decision-making process, I feel.
Draconis playing it pretty safe on Neki. If you get close to Neki and manipulate the second to last nut to land close, you can then go straight to the tire and kind of jump over both of them, and that puts you in a good position to get an early hit after the final nut. And it's one of the only things you can really do to getting good luck, because it's definitely easy to hit Neki when he spawns lower down.
Draconis, it's time not to die to show how it's done. King Carol, once again, you want to play it safe. Maybe not lose neither Didi nor Donkey, whatever the fanfare times are, and just go safe, and you know, you will be, it's done soon enough. It is, I've remembered King Carol being so long. I thought it was like twice as long than that. It's actually not too bad, but definitely an underwhelming boss fight after such a technical and intense speedrun. Draconis was on those levels for the past 45 minutes, and then has pretty much just to not to die from boredom almost, and yeah, he already lost DK. I'm scared now. Hold me.
He wants to be held right now, perhaps, or maybe he wants his hands free to control Diddy, his last remaining Kong. It was pretty long for that jump there. It made me a little nervous. It was a pretty similar timing as Devil Tifa, who ended up getting hit by that crown. It's the kind of thing where, you know, if you're just doing it the way that you're used to and the way that you practiced, which is pretty fast, sometimes that can be better than purposely trying to take it safe, and you're trying to do something different. And you're adding in a pause and it feels weird and it throws you off, and then suddenly you've paused too long. You're just standing there and you take a crown to the face. So you know, there's something to be said for just sticking to the plan. Either way, only one hit left, and Jonas is going to get another finish under that 15-minute mark.
Yeah, barely, but getting it twice proves that he can do it consistently, and that he just has to learn a little bit more, and it soon will be on par with the other runners that can already do like almost sub 40 consistently. So very nice race, and we are going to switch to the leaderboard to see how well the top runners have done, and Persian player indeed took the lead by quite a margin with his sub 39 time.
Yeah, so Magic K was 10 points back. Thought he was closer in race number 1. So while I knew Persian player was going to come out on top in terms of those two, how close it was what I was waiting to see. And it did end up quite close, even all among the top 5. We didn't see too much of Alien on stream, but with a... Wait, that was the... Maybe that's a different name there than...
Alien did we did not show on stream, maybe it was not streaming to us, but we did see on Thursday, and he did very well, and I'm pretty happy to see all the runners consistently getting almost the same time. But I'm surprised a lot of them actually did worse on the second race. This is the first time it has happened, and maybe once again DKC is a long and technical speedrun, and the second time around there are all the tricks you successfully pulled off on the first race you have to do all over again, and all the tricks you missed you maybe are scared you are going to miss again. So Toru, Alien did like a couple of points, fell a couple of points on the second race. Magic K and Persian player got way better, with like a 30 points improvement for Magic K, so probably a PB also. So that was a crazy god run for him. Getting sub 40 on live after a week, it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. That run in particular, it's got to be something that Magic K is happy about. And just, you know, even though we see some pretty big gaps of, you know, 10, 20, even 30 points, we do see some really strong runs from our top 5 here in both races. Baramandu probably also could have put up another 150-ish run, perhaps, if it was available to run race number 2. But that top 5 is, I really just like looking at those numbers, and that, well, honestly, I like looking at that nice chocolate brown shade of color that the players have managed to achieve with their their low scores in that 150, 170 range. But those totals, there's only a 25-point difference between first and fifth. And a nice spread there in our top 5, that after a week that players were able to get not only this good, but this consistently good in Donkey Kong Country, and really great to see.
Yeah, to be honest, this is the first tournament on Saturdays where we have so few runners. Many ways to explain that, but probably DKC is probably the final long speedrun of the UD6, and the runners had like long speedruns already with Eye of Sorrow, A Story About My Uncle, Shovel Knight, so that's a lot to learn and to remember. So maybe a lot of players are just delaying a little bit learning DKC for later this season, and took the time, the week, maybe to play through the game casually and start learning. But I know for a fact that a lot of runners are just learning level after level and did not join because the learning stopped around World 4 or 5 and did not want to compete with going blind on World 6, which I totally respect and understand. So no worries whatsoever for our players. All those Persian player, Devil Tife, Magic K, Toru, Alien, Draconis, Ghost Death did very well and on both races, and they learned the game very fast, but UD6 is a long process, and you do have to take your time to learn correctly every single jump in DKC.
Yeah, coming out for events like today's, I mean, it's definitely really good practice if you're not used to competing in a tournament setting, or you can't reach for that reset button. That timer is going to keep going. Getting yourself used to playing in that environment is super important. It can just be a lot of fun, but it also is pretty stressful. So I agree. I definitely understand if not there yet in your learning, not wanting to come out and then kind of stick up the place in the final world, the hardest world, of course, naturally the way things go. So we see our top 5 today did really well. Keep a lookout over the course of the season for a bunch of other names to pop up and start joining these guys in this this sort of bracket, I suppose, in Donkey Country. As we get later on in the season, it'll take a little bit before Donkey Kong Country comes back, but I guess there's other games until then, right? Something's got to be coming up.
Yeah, we are going to announce the next game. I will just shut up and let you enjoy that little presentation. The ending was more abrupt than I expected, but Trials 2 is certainly a weird one. But I was expecting, and everybody should have been expecting, a weird balance game. Trials 2 came out in 2007 or 8, right before Trial HD on the Xbox 360, which is probably the version of the game everybody knows the best. Trials 2 is the beginning of Trials becoming good. Have you ever played Trials, Mythical?
Sure have. Back when, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Trials 2, but it was definitely Trials. Back when Xbox Live Arcade was a thing. I'm pretty sure Trials was one of the games. And it was even my first game in this genre. I think this introduced this sort of, this sort of physics-based motorcycle platformer thing that has a. No, it's not a big genre, but it's spread a little bit since Trials became so popular. But my first experience with this sort of thing was on the PCs at school. There was a game called Elastomania.
Yeah, this one is great.
So it's a little different in that your both wheels control your character. You're trying to pick apples and other very kidsy sort of game, very everywhere sort of situation. And so when I saw Trials, I was like, oh, it's just Elastomania. And then people would look at me funny for saying the word Elastomania. So to most people, it's this sort of gameplay is basically, and everything else is a Trials clone. In my heart, this is
Have you ever
clone.
seen the task for Astomania?
Oh,
It
no,
is.
but now I am gonna go
Yeah,
look that up.
it is something you want to see if you like Elastomania, because the physics of that game can be pushed toward anything your imagination can create. Like it's crazy. But back to Trials 2, it's the category first is going to be easy and medium, so that's about 18 tracks, if I recall correctly. You have to do them in order, starting from the first in easy and end with the last of the medium difficulty. You are allowed to use the checkpoints, obviously. You are allowed to do whatever you want. You just have to beat all the tracks. The time for the 200 points is about 15 minutes. And I don't remember how fast the timer goes, but it's maybe 20 or 25 minutes top to beat it. It will be doable, I feel. It's not going to be the hardest game, but getting into it is probably going to be the hardest. Just beating the game for the first time is going to be very tough, because it's an old game. It has aged poorly, in my opinion, and I'm not sure how well the control support is for that game, so you might have to play with keyboard and mouse. So keyboard mostly. It's just like a 3-button, 4-button game, just left, right for your balance, 1 button to brake and 1 button to accelerate. So it's a very simple game, but it's going to be a very tough speedrun and very tough experience for a lot of runners, I fear.
Yeah, the general gameplay. If you haven't played Trials before, there's a hump to get over, so to speak, in learning how to get over humps in this game. You know, it won't necessarily come very naturally to you, that you can even do some of the things you see in videos and stuff when you look it up. You know, you're like, how is his bike doing this and this part that is not. The way you shift your weight, and you know, you're feathering the accelerator or gently holding it or holding it all the way down. Things like bunny hopping, rocking your bike left, right. These sorts of things are the game do a great job of teaching you itself. It kind of just puts something you can't get past without, and then says figure it out. So I agree. I think there's some room here for players to maybe struggle a bit with these bikes. Certainly people who've played it before will have a head start in that sense. But I don't. Maybe some good Trials resources out there. I'm not sure if there's much of a speedrun scene for this game.
There's no speedrun scene like we understand speedrun, but there is like an entire website. It's trials2.redlinksprobably.com. Well, you can look it up if you just type in Trials2 leaderboard, and it has videos and ranking for all the tracks and all the players, but it's just IELTS. I don't know if anyone has done like all the levels back to back, just as a speedrun we understand it, but a lot of people have done IELTS. You can see a lot of the best times, and it will not be so easy like on DKC to learn Trials. You will have to try to do it all over again from yourself, trying to understand how the best time does it, but it's all about balance, understanding how well you shift your weight. It's not like a frame-perfect input game, it's all about feeling. It's going to be an interesting race. We obviously are going to see it next week in the same setting of a tournament as we did today for TKC. But I will not be here. I will find Mythical and a co-commentator, a co-host for Trials 2. I have, for family reasons, to take a break, so I hope it'll go smoothly. But yeah, DKC was a fun one. It's going to still be a fun one for the entire season, and Trials 2 is probably going also to be very, very nice.
I sure hope that the players like it. There's definitely a chance that it's a little too weird for them, or they want to like it but they're not good at it, and I don't like being bad at a game, and these kinds of things. You know, there's a reason this game caught on. There's a reason there's 4 or 5 of them now. There's something very fun about the core gameplay, and I think that should be enough to hook in some people and get some pretty good races going on through the next week.
Yeah. So we are going to let Speed Gaming go back to its standard schedule of the Saturday. I'm pretty sure we have some Link to the Past coming up, and I don't have the schedule open right here. If you can fill me in.
I did pull it up for you.
Nice.
And I mean, A Link to the Past is a good guess, certainly just by the sheer amount of it. But we are going to have Dark Souls on the channel in a little bit, in about 25 minutes. So it's going to host something, and it's probably going to host A Link to the Past. So perhaps you were right, but coming up next on your scheduled programming for Speed Gaming, the prime is going to be some Dark Souls at 2 p.m.
Nice.
Eastern.
Well, enjoy all the the content Speed Gaming has for you this weekend. I hope you enjoyed DKC as much as we did, because that was a good one. And for all that are interested, if you want to run trials too with us, you can just join the UD. If you want to run with us any games of the UD, or even the entirety of the games, the full 10 games, you can join us on !UD. It's already up in chat, and you have all the infos. We try to have as many players featured on those events, and obviously Trials 2 is going to be the meat of next week.